It's 6 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the headlines. The Saenuri party is off to a strong start for the upcoming April elections, already announcing election pledges. In stark contrast, the chances of the opposition teaming up to become a major threat to the ruling party seems highly unlikely. In a meeting with South Korea's diplomats, the foreign minister calls for all-out efforts to better deal with North Korea, pointing out that expectations for Seoul's role in the international community is growing constantly. It's the ultimate prize for young job hunters, more than 600,000 applicants, some 72% first-time job seekers, all vying for a spot in Korea's biggest companies. With just 4 weeks until the nation heads to the polls, Korea's rival parties are gearing up for the April 13th general election. The ruling Saenuri party announced its 5 election pledges Monday, while the possibility of a liberal coalition appears increasingly unlikely. Ji Myung-gil has our top story.
The ruling Saenuri party stated its intentions on Monday for victory at the April 13th general election.
The Saenuri party will win the upcoming election by putting people's livelihoods first. We will continue to strive for the success of President Park Geun-hye's administration.
As a show of determination to win the April contest, the ruling party announced 5 election pledges. The first is to narrow the gap between the haves and have-nots. Second is to create more jobs on the back of government-led deregulation. Third, create effective policies to support younger generations and foster talent. Fourth, finish labor market reforms. And fifth, tackle the nation's low birth rate by supplying more daycare centers for toddlers around the country. On the other side of the aisle, the main opposition Minju Party of Korea criticized the ongoing factional strife within the Saenuri party.
The political infighting reveals the more unsavory aspects of President Park Geun-hye's dictatorial leadership and proves that the administration is incompetent. As a result, people will think twice before voting for a Park loyalist.
The ruling party's internal feud came to a head last week after a Park loyalist, Yoon Sang-yeon, said the party's leader Kim Moo-sung, who has been at odds with the pro-Park faction, and his followers should not be nominated as candidates for the April polls. Meanwhile, the Minju Party appears resigned to the fact that its proposal to merge with the minor opposition People's Party ahead of the election is unrealistic, as the founder and co-leader of the People's Party, An Chol-soo, remains sternly opposed to any such alliance. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Speaking at a meeting with heads of South Korea's overseas diplomatic missions Monday, Seoul's foreign minister called for collective diplomatic efforts to deal with North Korea. Our foreign affairs correspondent Kwon So-hwa has the full story.
Speaking to heads of South Korea's overseas diplomatic missions, South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se stressed the need, more than ever, for all-out diplomatic efforts in dealing with North Korea.
At the beginning of the year, North Korea conducted its 4th nuclear test and a long-range missile launch. Even now, the North continues its belligerent rhetoric and actions, such as threatening to deploy nuclear warheads, conducted preemptive strikes, and more nuke tests.
His remarks were part of an opening speech made at an annual gathering in which he assessed diplomatic achievements from last year, such as the landmark deal between Seoul and Tokyo regarding the so-called comfort women issue, and touched upon the roadmap and key diplomatic targets for this year. Yoon added that with the expansion of South Korea's international clout, expectations are growing accordingly regarding the country's role in the international community. Meanwhile, issues expected to top the agenda during the 5-day meeting include Seoul's response to North Korea's threats, diplomacy for peace and unification on the Korean peninsula, discussions on how to utilize diplomatic support to revitalize the economy, the safety of South Korean nationals abroad in the wake of growing global terror threats, as well as discussions on public diplomacy. The diplomats will also put their heads together to devise precise measures for achieving the Park administration's diplomacy strategy targets. In a gesture of encouragement, President Park is holding her own meeting with the diplomats, other senior officials, and politicians Monday evening. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
North Korea has released more information regarding its alleged development of miniaturized nuclear warheads. It is a serious potential threat that follows a long list of unconfirmed claims from the communist regime, which may be why South Korea and some experts remain divided over Pyongyang's actual nuclear capabilities. For this report, we turn to Connie Kim.
North Korea released last week the first picture of what it claims to be a miniaturized nuclear warhead. While it symbolizes a major threat, the image also drew speculation that the silver sphere, estimated to be about a meter in diameter, was just a mock-up. Seoul maintains a stance, saying Pyongyang does not yet have the technology for such an advancement. However, some experts and organizations have a different take on Seoul's conservative stance. The U.S.-based North Korea monitoring website 38 North recently said there is enough open-source evidence to show there is a serious possibility that North Korea has developed a compact fission device that's about 60 centimeters in diameter and weighs between 200 to 300 kilograms. There is also suspicions that the AQCON nuclear supplier network sold related sensitive technology to Pyongyang.
Since North Korea acquired technology related to nuclear warheads from the CON network starting from the mid-1990s, it can be concluded that North Korea already succeeded in miniaturizing a nuclear warhead in the 1990s.
Reflecting growing concerns, a South Korean ambassador to the UN, Oh Jun, warned that Pyongyang is reaching a crucial threshold for nuclear capabilities. That's why Oh urged the North to come to the negotiating table to discuss denuclearization, stressing more, tougher sanctions could be imposed on the reclusive state if it forges ahead with another provocation. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Amid increasing threats from the north, the South Korean Army's special forces conducted an anti-terrorism drill in the southeastern region of the peninsula. This year's drill featured a domestically produced helicopter dispatched for the first time. Kim Yeon-bin introduces us to Suryeon.
A terror alert has been issued for a key government facility. Soon after the alert, the Korean-made helicopter Suryeon lifts off. The Suryeon is capable of traveling 260 kilometers an hour and lands at a Special Forces brigade. After touching down, Special Forces soldiers dressed in full combat gear board a helicopter in a hurry. After reaching the target facility, Special Forces units employ a technique called fast rope before dispatching with all terrorists on the premises. This is all part of the Korea-U.S. annual joint military drills dubbed Key Resolve and Full Eagle.
We will arrive at the scene before the enemy and take them out accordingly.
This training exercise was also a successful test for the Suryeon helicopter, which outperformed Korea's previous helicopters UH-1H and 500MD. This is also the first time the Suryeon has taken part in a field exercise.
The Suryeon has enhanced performance and capabilities compared to its predecessors and will be better equipped to support our special forces in aerial missions.
The South Korean Army says it is ready and on alert for any possible provocations from the north. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
A wise man once said a machine may do the work of 50 ordinary men but may never replace one extraordinary individual. Se-dol may fit that description, especially after besting a computer program designed to adapt, evolve, and beat any opponent it faces in the game of Baduk, also known as Go. Kim Ji-yeon looks into how the Korean grandmaster forced the cold calculating AI to stumble and fall.
Professional Baduk player Se-dol finally scored a historic win over Google's computer program AlphaGo after losing 3 in a row in the best-of-5 competition. AlphaGo had been playing well until E's move 78, which threw AlphaGo off its game and ultimately its winning streak. AlphaGo's moves 79 and 87 had professional players scratching their heads.
I was a little confused when AlphaGo put its stone there. The move made it less likely it would win.
AlphaGo's developer Demis Hasavis also tweeted during the game that AlphaGo was unlikely to win 4 straight games. He also congratulated Se-dol for playing brilliantly, saying AlphaGo's chances nosedived after move 87. By placing a stone between AlphaGo's 2 stones, Se-dol held AlphaGo's stones captive while freeing its prison stones simultaneously.
I haven't really put any deep thought into why I made move 87. At the time, it just seemed like it was the only way to carry on. I didn't know it would be such a critical moment.
Deciding it was pointless carrying on, AlphaGo sent a pop-up message to the computer screen that read AlphaGo resigns, with only a minute left in the match. The fifth and final game between Se-dol and AlphaGo will take place in Seoul on Tuesday at 1 p.m. Korean time and will be broadcast live on YouTube. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Turning to a different story now, Korea's import prices went up for the first time in 8 months in February on the back of stabilizing global oil prices. The Bank of Korea says prices went up 1.6% last month from the previous month. Dubai crude Korea's benchmark shot up 7.5% last month from January. Still, import prices were down over 7% from a year earlier. Export prices in February also rose 0.8% from a month ago as Korean won weakened against the U.S. dollar. The local currency depreciated 1.3% on month in February to 1,217 won against the greenback. South Korea's largest conglomerate, Samsung Group, has seen its brand value rise in dollar terms, but its ranking has fallen a notch from last year. Samsung's arch-rival Apple easily topped this year's list. Kim Min-ji updates us on where the tech giant stands.
Over $83 billion. That's a brand value of Samsung, Korea's top business group. According to UK-based industry tracker Brand Finance, that's up 1.8% from a year ago and puts Samsung in third place. Brand value is measured by taking into account various factors such as brand strength, brand loyalty, and brand revenues. The world's most valuable brand was Apple at $145.9 billion, up 14% on year. Google ranks second, rising a notch from the previous year. Other Korean conglomerates on the list included Hyundai in 36th and LG Group in 102nd. And the wealthier these brands are, the richer their owners tend to be. But how many of the world's richest people are self-made billionaires, and how many inherited their vast wealth? According to the U.S. Peterson Institute for International Economics, in Korea, most of the country's biggest business groups have been passed down through the controlling families, with 3 out of 4 billionaires in Korea inheriting their wealth. That puts Korea in 5th place among 67 countries. Finland and Kuwait top the list at 100%, meaning all billionaires inherited their wealth, while in Russia, all billionaires were self-made. Taking a look at some major economies, only 2% of billionaires in China inherited their wealth. The corresponding figure stood at over 18% for Japan and 29% for the U.S. Worldwide, those who succeeded on their own have been on the rise. In 1996, the proportion stood at 44%, but by 2014, it reached 69%, surpassing the figure of billionaires who inherited their wealth. However, in Korea, the number is still relatively low at 26%. Experts attribute the trend to Korea's chaebol-centered economic structure and people's preference for stable jobs. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Speaking of stable jobs, the first of Korea's biannual recruitment season is officially underway. Major companies like Samsung and SK announced openings today. Unfortunately, many of the big names are choosing to cut down on the number of new hires this season. Oh Soo-young explains why there could be more angst in store for young job seekers vying for these coveted corporate positions.
It's job hunting season in Korea, as the country's biggest companies are looking to fill new positions in the first half of this year. Lee Kyung-ah is a senior in university and is preparing to submit her applications. She's just one of the estimated 600,000 in the country, hoping to land their first job this season.
I'm right now preparing for jobs in big conglomerates such as LG, Samsung, and Hyundai Motor. So as a student majoring in business administration, I'm trying to do my best to seek opportunities out there.
Like Lee, about 72% of first-time job seekers will compete for positions at Korea's corporate giants during the first half of this year. Recent survey findings show that CJ Group tops the list among young job seekers for the most desired conglomerate positions, followed by SK, Samsung and LG. Hopes are high, but the possibility is relatively low. Despite the government's efforts to increase the number of full-time jobs for young people, openings at large companies have shrunken significantly this time around. A recent survey reveals that almost half of Korea's largest companies will not be offering new full-time positions to college graduates this season, with only 36% willing to employ new workers. In fact, the number of openings are expected to be reduced by 4.8% on average. The construction sector will make the biggest cut of almost 30% compared to last year, manufacturing by 18% and the finance sector by 10%. Employers in the food and beverage, IT and service sectors also plan to offer fewer positions. Experts say this is due to the country's sluggish economic conditions.
Hiring and training new employees adds a big financial burden, so both conglomerates and small and medium firms will likely hire fewer workers this year. It may seem like some conglomerates have increased new jobs, but most of them are internships or scholarship programs, not full-time positions.
With the youth unemployment rate in January having reached a 16-year high at 9.5%, it seems that first-time job seekers should prepare themselves for the toughest competition yet. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
We've come to the end of our newscast. As always, thank you for watching.